Shares of Meta extending declines after snapping a 20-day winning streak on Tuesday, closing down by nearly 3%. The multi-week rally adding more than $320 billion to the company's market cap. Joining us now for what's next on Meta and some of the other big tech names, JJ Kinahan, Tastytrade at IG CEO. JJ, thanks for being here. You make a pretty bold statement on Meta. You say investors have turned bearish on the name. What do you make of that, given the run-up that we've seen into this really brief and kind of insignificant pullback in the context of that run-up?
Well, I think that you hit on it right in the intro there when you said, 20 days in a row, basically. This is a stock that in 2.5 weeks went from 670 to 740. Just seemed like a runaway train almost to the upside. And it's fantastic. And I just think what's happened over the last week, I actually don't know that this is necessarily a longer term trade for many people. But I think what happened is people were looking at this and saying, okay, this is kind of insane of how fast this stock has gone up without really taking a breather. And so I think many people were just playing it for what has happened over the last couple of days and seeing, things come back to earth a little bit because the pace it was going at seemed absolutely incredible, especially given what was happening to some of its peers and the fact that, other stocks were acting, I'll use the quote, more normal in terms of how they were going up with some down days, et cetera. So I don't know that necessarily this is going to be, when talk again, hopefully in a couple of weeks, I don't know that this will be a stock that I'll be saying that our clients are necessarily bearish on longer term, because this is one that if I look back just a month and a half ago was, almost 75% of the activity was buys. And you have to remember a normal for a retail trader is about 52% buys, 48% sells. And so when I see a stock like Meta right now, where we're seeing, almost 60% of the activity to the bearish side over the last 7 days, it just tells me that A, some people are taking profits. B, some people are just saying this move seems a little bit out of hand. And as I just looked at the numbers in the first, obviously we're only 30 minutes in, looking really quick coming in this morning, we are starting to see some people take off some of those positions and cover based on, be those options or stock positions based on the movement we've seen the last 2 days.
Now, JJ, that being said, though, Meta's run has outpaced all of its Mag 7 counterparts. So what does this signal about the investor appetite when it comes to tech? Obviously, we're still in a very concentrated market. Valuations are stretched. But does this signal maybe perhaps some buying opportunity?
Well, Alexander, I think it absolutely does. And the other part about it is, the AI game continues. I think it's still, as we're starting to see more and more in the last earnings conference calls, it's now okay, you've spent this incredible money. And besides helping middle schoolers cheat on their papers and an incredible search engine, what are we really getting done? And I think we're all incredibly excited about what can actually come from this, particularly not just in the technology sector, but in the medical technology sector also. I think maybe the most exciting place that is eventually truly transformed by AI. But that all said, it's been billions of dollars spent with returns that I think everyone's left scratching their head. However, with that said, you have the biggest players in the industry all here spending that money, all of them with lots of cash in order to do so. So we are going to start to see, in my opinion, over the next year, you are going to see a lot more developments happen there. And when you have a company like Nvidia, which obviously reports next week, I think the one thing many of us will be looking for in that is, do we still see overwhelming demand? I believe was the term, perhaps I'm paraphrasing a little bit, from their CEO in terms of what they are seeing. And all what the stocks are showing us right now is that seems to be the case overall.
Yeah, it's interesting because you say that the bulls are back when it comes to Nvidia, but the stock is down about 0.3% year to date. What is the bull case for the company?
Well, I think if you look a little bit more, though, and you say, okay, what happened with DeepSeek? Here's a stock that's made back just about 90% of what that DeepSeek news was in terms of a threat overall. And so, again, I think also, when you head into such a big earnings, which they have now become, people may be a little bit more reluctant until it's a little bit of the show me case now in terms of what they will come out with next week. As I look at the options market here, we're pricing in about a 7 to a 7.5% move on those earnings numbers. So I think that also maybe have people holding back a little bit more. And so, in general, there is a lot to be excited about. And also the fact that if you look in 2024, this was a firm that in their fiscal year beat earnings on all 4 reports in terms of expectations. So I think that that is also something that people have to look at.
Do you think the DeepSeek risk has not been appropriately priced into this stock? Because it seemed like it was a big deal, and then all of a sudden it wasn't. We're getting some headlines today that they're reportedly seeking some outside funding. So what do you make of how investors have digested the DeepSeek news?
Well, I think that it's again, sometimes the news from China can be a little bit tough to figure out in terms of the accounting. I think what I would say is that, if you look at what portion of development, when they said they did this for, I think it was $26 million, what part of the development are you talking about? You're talking beginning to end, and everything we're starting to see says, well, maybe not beginning to end, but maybe at the end processing, et cetera. So I think that there is what people have done is say, hold on, let's compare apples to apples compared to apples to the very small slice of an apple. And so that is why I think there remains some questions. However, I do think the real positive that came out of this overall was perhaps we as a country and maybe the tech industry had a little bit of sense of, I don't want to use the word arrogance, but we are superior and nobody can ever catch us. And so I think with this, it has been a bit of a wake-up call, which usually serves as a really good thing in business for people to say, hey, others are out there and they're going to compete just as hard. So you have to be sharp in your game the entire time. And that overall tends to be a good thing. And I think for Nvidia, we're seeing with how the stock has responded back positively, it has been a good thing overall, and the continued rally in the chip and the sort of more full sector plays that you get within Nvidia.
One more tech name before we let you go. Apple, you're seeing bullish signals. What's the activity telling you?
Yeah, so we're seeing about 75% of the activity in Apple being positive right now. And, as we continue to see some of the AI with phones, et cetera, I think Apple was under a little bit of a cloud for a while. It's certainly come back. For so many years, Apple was sort of the favorite of retail. That fell out a little bit over the last year or so, but in the last 3 to 4 months, since the holiday season started particularly, we're starting to see a greater interest in Apple again from the retail trader overall. And that is, it's back in the top 5 names every single day after being, as I said, number 1 for so many years. So people continue to want to buy the stock, see the potential going forward, even with some of the geopolitical risks that it may have.
JJ, thanks so much. Appreciate your insights. We always love talking tech.
Thanks, ladies.